Welcome to the Launch Party podcast. And we are back live, lifting off towards stratospheric success. And we want to take you guys along the ride with us. We are cooking up, we're catching up with the videos, the weeks that we missed. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying the content again. We're going to get some clips up, have a good time. Today is going to be a conversation between myself and Esteban again, just kind of brainstorming, thinking through things, predicting the future in some sense, trying to understand why we think the way we do, and hopefully you guys can relate to it and it'll be entertaining. But how's it going, Esteban? Good to see you again.
Going really well. Going really well. Yeah, good to see you again after about a 2 day gap. So
Yeah.
glad to be making up for lost time here. Hopefully we'll have a nice vault of clips to pick from over this next little
Yep.
while. And yeah, I'm excited for this topic. It's going to be a little bit more theoretical, a little bit more, you could say, scientific. For the most part,
Sci-fi.
what we've talked about so far is very much business and self-improvement related topics, and of course that's going to be mostly our foundation. But this is the kind of stuff that I geek out over, and that I spend a lot of late nights learning about on little random YouTube videos and documentaries and stuff. So let's do it.
Yeah, so my roommate Mac Pacey and I yesterday we were talking about this idea that I've seen in my life actually come to fruition. And it's this. I think we all have something in the back of our mind, in the back of our conscience where we almost yearn for bad things to happen. And I've done that in my life, and then the things actually end up happening. But for this context, we're going to talk about the broad future and kind of a dystopian future, maybe. And I think, especially as guys, we think about things such as a zombie apocalypse or a civil war. And I think you guys can relate to this. In the back of our minds, we're like, man, that would be kind of sick. I kind of want this to happen. So all my responsibilities that I know of now disappear and become more survivalistic, basic responsibilities where all you got to do is care for yourself, your family, and try to survive. Like in a zombie apocalypse, you need to find shelter, food, and try not to die. But it's kind of weird because logically, when you think about these things, it's like a civil war is not a good idea at all. A lot of people are going to die, and it's most likely going to be you and all the people that, and if not you, all the people that you know, and it's going to cause a lot of pain and suffering. But for some reason, maybe it's like Satan in the back of our mind to an extent. Like we have an evil within us, but we got to kind of keep it at bay. I don't know. What do you think, Esteban?
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, and honestly, I think that in a way we do have to throw that logical side of our brain kind of out the window here, because when we think about these things, it's yeah, it very much is primal emotional instincts. And one thing it reminded me of is, I'm sure you guys have seen those little memes on whatever Instagram, TikTok, of like the girl laying in bed next to her boyfriend, and then she's thinking about him, thinking of like, oh, he's thinking of other girls. Oh,
Yeah.
what's he thinking about? Oh, does he even like me? And then the boy is laying next to her, just thinking about the freaking zombie apocalypse, and what he would do, and like
Yeah.
what kind of gun he would have, and like how he would be the hero of the day. And I think, maybe some girls watching this can kind of relate, and they kind of want a zombie apocalypse to happen. But I think for the most part, it's the boys that have like this intrinsic desire to not just suffer the bad of whatever, civil war, apocalyptic event, but it's the triumph, right? it's
Yeah.
it's it's grabbing the shotgun and blasting some zombies, and riding around in the jeep, and raiding the grocery store, like all that kind of stuff we've seen in movies, and played in video games. It incites a sense of what I ultimately think is purpose and fulfillment in us,
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of things in our modern world just can't replicate. Because for most of human history, the men, they fought. or at least they supported in some sort of fighting effort. We live in a very peaceful time right now, and in the past, civilizations were pretty much, at least major civilizations were pretty much always either at war or doing some sort of conquest, right? The Romans were, expanding throughout Europe, and then boom, they expand to Africa, Asia, right? The British and the Spaniards, they're sailing to the New World and discovering, conquering, and then we had, World War One, World War Two. You're going out in the trenches with your boys, and you're going over into no man's land, and you might get mowed down by a machine gun, but you still made the choice to fly out to the Ardennes forest and go over that trench, right? So it's definitely, I think, is subconsciously we're kind of wired to want to be in that sort of environment and just not have to worry about all this modern stuff, right? Oh, my phone's about to die. Oh no, girl
Got
didn't respond to
homework.
me, didn't respond to my snap. Oh no, I got to pay my credit card bill today. Oh shit, I got to go to class and study. Like, screw all that. Like, I'm trying to, pick up a gun and shoot some zombies, right? And it sounds stupid, but I think when you really dive into the psychology of it, there's a little bit of sense behind it.
Yeah, I do agree. I think I agree a lot with your point, and I want to. If there are girls that are listening and do have this sense, please let us know, because that's actually an interesting poll that maybe we could do to
Mm.
see what's the relationship between genders and this sense of what you said, finding purpose and meaning. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it ultimately comes down to that sense of adventure that we all really yearn for in our life. And that adventure, it's like the classic hero myth or the hero story where you, just a normal guy, has to go out into the world and conquer a dragon. And after he conquers the dragon, he gets the gold, he gets the treasure that's buried within the darkness. And I think
Mm.
we all yearn for that in some fundamental sense. And yeah, I think this apocalyptic future kind of replicates that to an extent. But you still logically, we got to be like, okay, this is definitely not a good idea. But I think we can implement that understanding that we're talking about now into our lives today, even though we're not actually going out conquering villages and raiding the villages and destroying the military and stuff like that. But today we can start a business. We can go out into the world, start something new,
Mm-hmm.
go through the trials and tribulations, and and going through those hard times throughout that journey, that adventure that I just outlined, you get to reap the reward at the end of it. And you know a lot of philosophers would say that the journey is actually more important than the destination, and we're all
Right.
yearning for that sense of adventure. And a lot of people nowadays are just sitting behind a phone or a computer screen playing video games, which kind of emulate that to some extent, and we can both relate to that. But it's not real, and that we each know
Mm-hmm.
that to deep down in our soul and our mind.
Yeah, in a way, as a I don't want to say as a species, but at least as in Western society, we're at a destination right now,
It
and
got easy.
for right, yeah, we and I'm sure you guys have all heard of the cycle. We've probably already mentioned on the podcast, right?
Yep.
Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men create bad times, right? So
Yep.
we, for pretty much the entire 20th century, there was a lot of challenge. There was a lot that we were striving for as a collective, and now we're just kind of chilling. We're at the destination. We've arrived, right? And now we get to lay in our bed and go like this, and
Yep.
we get to burn the hours away, and no one gets hurt. Um, and also, I think that something else that we very much appreciate is collaboration, working with
hmm
other people, working with other
Towards a
men
goal.
to accomplish things, right? And a lot of people will say, in the media and just kind of in general, that we are more divided now than ever. That's debatable. I mean, I'm sure some people will look at that and be like, we're fine. At least we're not going to war anymore. At least we're not fighting the Soviets. but in that piece, there that creates a natural sense of division. And I think that a lot of the reason why we're starting to see a lot more of this political banter and the rioting and stuff like that. I don't think it's our society is really that bad, not as bad as the media makes it out to be. But why we have this sense of division and this sense of polarity is because we have nowhere else to flex that muscle.
Exactly.
We're just kind of chilling and all hanging out together right now. And like you mentioned, Danny, with business, when you go into business and pursue that goal, and pursue something difficult with business partners, or with your team, or with your bosses and your colleagues and stuff like that, you can get kind of like that sense of community and that sense of working together back. And I think that one conclusion I can kind of draw there is I tend to notice that the people in my life that I know that are taking on the most difficult challenges when it comes to their career. So whether that's business owners I've worked for, other salespeople I've worked with who do a lot, who work really hard, they tend not to be worried as much about the little stuff. They tend not to watch the news as much. They tend not to be as freaked out about the results of the election. They tend not to, over sensationalize the stuff they see on social media, or really stress about other things.
Because it
And
doesn't
I
really
think that
matter.
right. Yeah. Now, I think it's because like their main purpose, their main drive is being more fulfilled by their overall mission. And just all the excess fat just kind of gets cut off.
Yeah, and I think you are correct when people say we are more divided than ever. I think psychologically that is true for exactly the reason you said.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a mission or a goal towards something collectively. We're
Right.
all, and religion is basically dying. So that's always been something worth striving toward. It's like, be the best person you can be. Try to love your neighbor as yourself. And we all, back when America started, we all kind of had that vision, that upward trajectory, and we lost that now. And you could see this in Twitter headquarters, for example, when Elon Musk bought Twitter, because I was been reading about him finishing up that book. He comes in with a sink and he starts walking in. He's like, let that sink in. Because he's about to destroy what now as Twitter and fire 80% of the people. And I think a big part of it was this going remote ever since COVID, whereas Twitter had all these employees and this insane headquarters. They had espresso coffee bars, they had yoga studios, they had wellness centers. All right. But people weren't even coming into work. When Elon Musk bought the company and went there, you would expect, every employee's there, got to talk to the new boss. There are 10 employees at Twitter headquarters in San Francisco. It's and they had Twitter had Twitter merchandise T-shirts in their headquarters that said "Stay woke." Like, how is that? Anyways, so that company wasn't striving towards anything. They weren't being collaborative. And it showed by the results in terms of revenue and user usage. It's like, whether it's business or in life, we got to have a collaborative goal, an upward trajectory that we're striving towards. And what do you think now, Esteban? What, as a society, as Americans, as maybe even Georgians nowadays, what are we all striving towards? Like, do we have a goal, do you think, or just nothing?
Well, I think you would have to almost break up potential answers to that question into levels in a way. Sure, you could say we're all striving towards, doing our part in society, but
But are
you
we?
could, right, exactly. Like you could argue that part in society has become less and less important, and that our individual role, is kind of disposable. You could look at it on an individual scale. We're all trying to pursue happiness and make money, right, and build towards starting a family and all the little goals that we have. But maybe this is just because I think back to a lot of history and I compare it to that, and it's like what we're collectively striving for nowadays is nothing in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, to answer that question, I would say not really right now.
I
At
think
least
some
in
smaller communities tend to have that sense of belonging, and they come together and try to become
hmm
better. But as a whole, and definitely in the big cities, it's just like you just walk around and just see random people, and everyone's just got their head down. They're either on their phones or they have their hat down, and no one says hi to anybody. We don't have a sense of purpose, especially as a society as a whole. And I
right.
think it's very important to start as individuals and take sense of responsibility for yourself, your family, and your community, your friends, and try to make the world a better place and do your part in it.
hmm as much as I wish we all had that mindset, I guess I'm a little bit pessimistic in the sense that when it comes to all of us being held together by the same glue, I just don't think that's possible without a true incentive that we all feel on a personal level. As much as we're taught in school, do good, do your part, do what's best for your family, right? Um, I think we need some sort of overarching purpose in order to truly hold that together on a large scale. And at least like in America and these modern countries and these big cities like you mentioned, it's just not really there anymore. But I mean, you compare that to you go to sub-Saharan Africa, you look at Israel,
The small,
Palestine,
yeah,
Ukraine, um, even Taiwan and China, right? They're looking across the water at one another. Kind of, it's people might still have that sense of that sense of purpose and that sense of unity over a whole host of different factors. But and maybe this goes back to the whole doomsday idea. I just don't think that we could that message that you just mentioned, Danny, could just be magically imprinted into all of us, as much as I wish that were possible.
yeah. And I think a big part of it is how easy it is. Like if you're bored and you don't have anything to do, you just look down at your phone
Yeah.
and you can just start scrolling for hours. There is no there's no conception nowadays, especially with young people, of maybe I could be doing something better with my time right now. Maybe I could be
hmm
getting better at a skill. Maybe I could be talking to somebody. Maybe I could be helping somebody. It's just like, oh, I'm bored. Bang, start scrolling on your phone for an
Instant
hour.
dopamine.
Yeah, instant dopamine, short attention span. You don't really gain anything from it. If anything, you're losing from it.
hmm
And especially with social media, people nowadays use social media as an extension or a reflection to some sense of yourself. It's like people are cyborgs to some extent, where you have your actual self and then you have your online persona, and it's not really you, but it kind of is you. And people tend to exaggerate things online, and instead of being truthful, be fake, and that just divides us even more and makes, especially with people that are more, maybe you could call it incels or less extroverted, they look at this and they're like, man, I could never do that. That's just so unrealistic. And then they just keep
hmm
scrolling and then get stuck in this cycle.
Yep. And they only have that thought for about 3.5 seconds before they just like
Yeah.
turn it off. Next thought.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. And one thing I've noticed, and maybe this is slightly a different topic, but I would predict that by the time we're pretty old, within a couple decades here, cultural pockets and unique
Hmm.
personality traits amongst, whether it's, you could look at it geographically, you have different parts of the country, different parts of the world. I think slowly but surely we're going to all become diluted into one sort of blanket culture and blanket group of personality traits, because we're all getting our our primary source of information from the same place, right? From our phone. So think about it. If these these kids who are born in 2010, 2015, once they become adults, this is a generation of people that have had their phone literally their entire lives. With me and Danny, we just kind of barely missed the mark there, to where when we were young, like when we were 10, 11, 12, we didn't like I didn't get my first phone until I was, I think,
Middle school.
13, which
Yeah.
is still pretty young. But I wasn't on. I didn't have an iPad when I was 7. That's a big difference, right? So once our world is all once all these people are adults, and less people who didn't have a phone when they were young are still alive, how think of how similar trends and idea and thought is going to be throughout the world, because we're all on the same handful of platforms, right? Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. And I think, slowly but surely, for example, we're from the South. I don't think the Southern accent is going to be around for too much longer, right? I don't think that super unique and super diverse cultural groups are going to stick around for too much longer, because in a way we're all falling under the same umbrella now. We're all connected. We don't have that separation anymore. And it's, to me it's kind of scary, but I mean,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe
I could
the man up top knows it's for the greater good, and we must put our trust in the technology and our trust in the phone, and it's going to
oh
serve us.
geez.
But
We'll
let's be
see.
real.
I could definitely see some validity in that claim, especially in my personal experience, where if you go to these more southern areas and you listen to the grandparents and then the parents, they have a way stronger accent than especially the kids nowadays
Oh
do.
yeah.
15 to 25 years old, the accent is diminishing, and technology and social media is only now starting to be what it really is. And then secondly, yeah, I can see it being a situation in the future where we're like a Ready Player One. Have you seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Where we're all just living on top of each other physically, but our persona, our personality is more is we're like cyborgs where our personality is more online, and we're more of an online person than we are physically in real life. I
Right.
can definitely see this being a possibility. Like, you're not even a real person anymore. You are your online self, because once everything gets integrated, especially with AI and robots, and we don't and say we didn't actually have to do anything except for we're all just stacked on top of each other on trailers, and we can live in this entire new world online. I can
Mm-hmm.
definitely see that being a possibility, and it kind of is to an extent right now with social media and TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff. And if you go to a really amazing concert or a sporting event and you look around, especially, or even if you just see a famous person coming into a bar, it's just everyone like this with their phone and their flashlight on taking a video the whole time. It's like people aren't actually in the moment anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to be online and have online be the moment for them, but it's not real. You're not actually there. You're just looking at your phone through a camera lens.
Right.
Like, it's wild to me. Every
They.
single concert, you just see phones lined up throughout the entire front section.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, guys! Like, let's live life, have
Subconsciously,
experiences.
people get more value out of sharing with the world that they went to the concert
Because we're social beings.
than
Yeah, we've talked about
actually
that too.
enjoying the concert. Right. Yeah. So, I bet if we could create a world where we still have our phones, we can still shoot videos, but there was nowhere to post it, you wouldn't see as many
You
phones
would
out on
take
the
one
concert.
video and then that'd be it.
Yeah, like let's be real. You're not going back and looking through your camera roll and be like, oh,
Yeah.
that was a cool vacation. That was a cool concert. You're
No.
throwing it on social media and allowing the outside world to inject their opinion. And if what you posted was cool enough.
Hmm. People want that validation from others so badly, and they
Hmm.
can't get anything internally.
Yeah.
So
We did sway. Go ahead, finish your
it's
thought.
a it's a lyric from Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. It's like all that you need is in your soul. It's all that you need. It's all right here. Just live
Mm.
life. You don't need validation from other people on social media. Like that's not even real. Who cares?
Give us a thumbs up and a comment though while you're here. Give us some
Yeah.
give us some validation on our pod.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, yeah,
But go.
we're doing this podcast to share ideas, and sure, subconsciously, we probably do want a little bit of validation for it, but um,
But we're
there's
just
like the amount of benefit we're getting outside of just posting it is a million x, some random Instagram profile.
and we've said this if you guys have been listening for a while, multiple times. The reason why we're doing this podcast is to be able to articulate our own thoughts, have meaningful discussions with real people, and be held accountable and responsible for a goal that we have and things that we're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to emulate that. And if people enjoy watching it, then awesome. If not, so be it. We're here learning. Like if we had 10,000 subscribers right now, we would be getting more from just actually doing these things and being disciplined and responsible than the validation that we would get from comments. Like,
Right.
I don't know. But hopefully that doesn't change in the future if we do get famous. Hopefully we stick with the mission and our values.
We gotta stay grounded. We kind
Yeah.
of swayed pretty far from our
Yeah.
apocalypse topic,
Yeah, let's get back to that.
but it's all full circle. When the zombies
Mm-hmm.
come, you won't be worried about your Instagram reels anymore.
Mm-mm. They won't even exist. All the servers will be destroyed. There'll be no more
Yeah.
power.
Yeah, you ain't getting no 5G.
Nope. And all that information will just kind of dissolve into thin air or just be unplugged or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you do in, let's say, an apocalyptic event where there's a certain threat and you need to try to survive? Have you thought about this at all?
A
What's your
little
plan of
bit,
action?
yeah. I used to think about it more when I was younger. I thought it was a super cool topic, but I mean, I think I would do the usual stuff. First of all, I would want a gun. I would want a
Guns.
gun and a lot of ammo. I'd want some toilet paper. I'd want, I want an easy way to start a fire, and be close to my loved ones. Get us as together as possible. And I mean, shoot, I don't know. I mean, I think we're all pretty much going to be doing the same stuff, right? Just scavenging for food, making sure we can survive. Um, I think where it starts to get really interesting with these kinds of scenarios is how you interact with other people, and that's there's whole movies and storylines based
Shows.
around it. But when you see another car driving down the trail, or you see another person at the at the CVS that you're looting, what do? Do you shoot them, or do you just cross paths peacefully? I think that's where it starts to get crazy.
Yeah, and the crazy part is you don't know if they're just going to shoot you or be nice to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it gets interesting. But yeah, definitely need a lot of guns, ammo, fire starters, and then try to take my family up to the mountains in the middle of nowhere where we can live off the land. Probably a lot of fishing, some form of water, obviously, fishing, water, hunting, and then just get away from, like in a zombie apocalypse or something else. You got to get away from the people somehow because that's your immediate threat.
Or is
But
it? Or is it a collective force of protection?
yeah, I mean it depends on the scenario, but
Mm-hmm.
most likely that's it's probably better to face nature than to face
People.
zombies or a collective force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyways,
Yeah.
fun
Anyone
topic.
watching this, let us know if you've ever like daydreamed about these kinds of scenarios. I
Yeah,
think
and
we've all had like the hero, like the hero moment in our heads where it's like, dang, if that did happen, you think of this one highlight reel scene that you would have,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and or if you're like the last person on Earth, what would you do?
yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's where it starts to get fun.
Or just even on a more micro level, I think we think about a scenario where we are the hero, whether it be in a sporting game. You're like, oh, I could have done this and got the pick six, and we would have won the game and the championship. And I think we all kind of go through those scenes in our head. But the difficult part is actually executing and trying to get to that goal and accomplish things and actually be the hero. Can't just sit around thinking about it. Can't get
Right.
stuck in inaction. And we've talked about that.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another reason to go play sports while you're young. Go have some hero moments.
Yeah, you'll remember it. It'll be good times, and you
I was
meet
watching.
people.
Danny, have you watched Dune 2 yet?
Not yet, not yet.
So I was watching it, and Paul. I'm not sure if you watched the first movie, but the main character,
Mm-hmm.
his name is Paul, and he has this
Yeah,
whole saga, and it brought me back to like when I was younger, and I would watch movies like that because I haven't watched a movie like that in what feels like years now. I was like, dang, that would be so sick, you know?
yeah,
He's on this like abandoned planet. He's like the guy, right? He's like the Messiah
yeah,
and saves the day. And I was like, dang, dude.
yeah. I
Um,
think we all have a very deep connection with that story, and it goes back to the dawn of human civilization, like the Lord of
mhm,
the Rings. The reason why that movie, that series, those books are so popular, not because it's just well written, because it's a real story that everyone relates to and wants to emulate. It's
mhm,
just a normal person in the Shire, just a little hobbit, someone that's too small, not strong enough, too weak, is scared, not courageous, but is able to go out and have a real adventure and find purpose and meaning and able to accomplish great things through a lot of triumphs, or a lot of tribulations, but then a lot of triumphs in the end. And I think we all yearn for that. And I hopefully that's why we have in the back of our head we want a zombie apocalypse. But also there's another point to it. It's like the Harry Potter stories where Voldemort, when Harry is a little baby, tries to strike him, and then he has that scar on him. He has that evil. Voldemort is a part of Harry, and Harry's a part of Voldemort. That's why he can't kill Harry until the very end. But anyways, through whatever the heck happened. But it's like that evil is within inside all of us, and we need to be strong enough to keep it at bay at the same time.
right. And use it when it's needed.
And then yeah, we have to be a monster when it's necessary. But a real man is a monster that can control it.
Hmm.
I think that's right. But do you want to talk about Neuralink
Yeah.
and
Let's get
how?
into it.
Well, yeah, I'll try to explain. I think what it is. So Elon Musk has this company Neuralink where they are developing a chip that is to be implanted. I think either in the brain or in the spine. That, in some sense, makes us more of a cyborg than we already are, and I think has capabilities or could have capabilities to make people smarter and like attached to the internet, but also have capabilities to quote unquote cure Alzheimer's or use electromagnetic forces or fields to stimulate the nerves in a way that can make like the lame walk or possibly the deaf to hear or blind people to see. This is still pretty far out, far stretched and far out, but they think it could be a possibility. What do you think about that?
I think it's starting to get we're starting to enter the typical movie scene, right? Where we're all cyborgs, right? And we're all connected to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think first of all, from a biological perspective, we would have to see how successfully they could integrate this technology into our actual bodily functions. When I first heard about it, or heard about this type of technology, I thought of head transplants. So for a while, I remember like it was around like 2015 or something like that. There was this Italian guy who was paralyzed from the spine down, but he still had like a fully functioning head. He was a smart guy, and there was this doctor who was going to perform a head transplant on him. I don't know if he actually did. I don't think he did. Wasn't able to get the science right, but the brain from the guy's brain, it was going to be really difficult to tell it to now, instead of controlling his normal body, control another body, essentially attach it to a different spinal cord, right, and link everything together. So
Mm-hmm.
if Elon and his team are able to solve that inherent biological uh, reject, like, because we inherently we reject things that organs and especially with the nervous system, like foreign body parts, really, but like inherently we don't, our bodies don't like it. So if we're able to take the computer and say, all right, brain, here you go, work with this computer, then I think that same technology can be used for a million different things if we're able to solve that problem. But then this begs the question of, well, what if it glitches out, or what if it shuts off, or what
Mm-hmm.
if it gets hacked, right? What if the
Yeah, I don't know.
Chinese hack your
Yeah.
Neuralink, and then it gets pretty scary. I think in an ideal world, what I would like to see is a form of the Neuralink that's completely disconnected from the internet, completely disconnected from any sort of moderation from the company who made it, and that only you can control through your own programming. But in reality, that's probably not going to be the
Mm.
case. If in 100 years from now we all have some sort of AI chip integrated our our cerebral network, you already know it's going to be hooked up to the cell towers, and yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely a gray area, and it's can be pretty scary, the whole AI thing. What I have seen is with the Neuralink chip, and I'm pretty sure this is real. They used it on a monkey, and the monkey was able to play that game where you have the ball that goes bink bink bink, and then you have like a little slider to catch the ball, so it keeps jumping up and down. It's like Pong or something like that.
I think it's
He
Pong.
was able. He had the monkey was able to use the Neuralink to control where the little thing was to catch the ball, the Pong slider.
Wow.
Um, so that's kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure that's real, but that's just one little step towards curing blind people or using a Neuralink chip to walk or integrate the internet into somebody's head. So I don't know. It could go a lot of different ways, but they are investing in that, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there definitely is the plus side of it, and a doomer could say that this is the way they market it towards us, and this is the way we make it acceptable, curing blindness, curing paralysis, um, whatever, bringing back auditory senses to someone who's deaf, stuff like that. And but the question is, what comes beyond that, right? Someone's going to be like, well, shoot, I'm just a normal guy, I don't have any issues, but I want to be smarter, I want to
Yeah.
install a chess computer into my brain
Yeah.
so I never lose.
Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. I can see why people would want that, but at the same time, it's like if you have a chip in your brain to make you someone who you're not, then you aren't a person anymore in some real sense. You're definitely not you. And then it comes down to like when you're talking about head transplants, will that ever be able to work? Are we more than just flesh and blood? Do we have an actual conscience where if you
Mm,
cut somebody's head off and try to put it back on, it's not even a person anymore. It's just like it's not a person that was born from a mother into the world. It's just a head with a brain and some circuits. I don't know.
Well, I bet some people would argue otherwise,
We are
that
just flesh and blood.
well, yeah, that as long as the chemistry of the brain is still firing, if you add a computer to it, you're still you in a way. And I guess to ultimately solve that question, we would have to investigate the existence of your conscious. What is it? Can we upload it? Can we transfer it? The existence of a soul, stuff like that. That's
Hmm.
very, very difficult questions to answer. And then we get into the ethics of how we treat robots in comparison to how we treat humans. If one day we have a world
If
where,
robots have a conscious and a soul,
right, yeah, do they get human rights? Do we it would it is it assault if you push one, if a robot's walking down the street and you shove it to the
hmm
ground?
hmm
Um so
it seems to me this is, at least right now, an insolvable problem
mhm,
to have to program a robot to be a real person, because the hardest part that the AI drivers like a Tesla and other companies are having is to have the system intake the information and make a valid decision that won't cause harm to other people and make a mistake. The best pathway they found in solving this, instead of writing hundreds of thousands of lines of code to act for every single possible situation, which would end up probably being millions of lines of code, what they're able to do, and this is why Tesla isn't just a car company, it's more of a information company.
mhm,
Since all Teslas have cameras everywhere, they were able to use the quote unquote good drivers that make good decisions, and they were able to rank these, use the video feed from all of these different cars, so millions of different videos, 1.5 million, and what I heard right now, but it's probably keeps going up per system, and use all these videos of the decisions that real drivers make to tell the robot, if a similar situation comes, this is the decision you should do, to tell the system, like, using this information in the past, this is what you should do in the future. But it's
right.
very difficult, it might be impossible, we don't know yet, to have a robot or a system be able to act as a conscious, functional, free thinking human, because just the act of intaking the information and translating it is something that only conscious humans can do, I think. But it's moving very quickly, so we'll see what
I think a
happens.
lot
Like,
of what it comes down to is acceptance of mistakes. So with humans, we make mistakes all the time, right? And
hmm,
if you're driving down the road and you have the decision of, do I T-bone the minivan, or do I turn right into the motorcycle driver, into the motorcyclist? Um, as a human, you're going to pick one of those two, and if it was a mistake, it was a mistake, right? But we hold computers to this maximum standard where it's like they
they
can't
got to be
mess up,
perfect. Yeah.
and if they do mess up, then the stonks tank, and we got to go back to the drawing board, and people need to get fired, right? I think if we get to a world where we treat robots and artificial intelligence as people, in the sense that they're going to make mistakes and that's okay, we're going to start to push that lever a lot further.
Hmm.
And I think ultimately in the future we're going to have to come to that realization that the self-driving car is going to mess up, and that's just a part of the risk you take when you sign the line at the dealership.
Yeah, it's sketchy. I think they call it network based approach versus program based approach. And so the network based is where they use all the videos of good drivers and good situations to influence their actions. So for example, when there was, say, trash on the road, or maybe like a stick on the road, like a big stick on the road, that a real driver would avoid by swerving into the left lane, like say it's a 2 lane road like this, swerving
Mm-hmm.
into the other lane to avoid that slightly, whereas the network based approach was able to make that because it's seen, in theory, people do that in the past. Whereas the program based approach has so many rules that it can't cross the dotted yellow line,
Right.
because that's in the program. You can't cross that line. So it just ran right through it, and in theory, that could cause damage to the car, then damage to other people.
Hmm.
instead of making the human decisions, which would be I need to get out of the way of this object so I can keep driving safely by breaking some, in theory, rules.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of crazy where this is all heading. I don't know if it's possible to make conscious robots, but we'll probably see within the next 10 years.
I mean, if they walk, they talk, they sound like us, and they I mean
Yeah.
they start to develop things like empathy and humor, then it's
Yeah.
that line's going to start to get pretty gray.
Yeah. It's a lot of programming. But all right, we got to cut it off short today, ladies and gentlemen. I got to go to class, unfortunately, but it's been an
Boo.
interesting topic. It's been real.
Yeah, yeah. This was fun. I think we should in the future, explore a couple more ideas like this. I know we kind of went everywhere, but
Hmm.
that's kind of the nature of it, right? And let us know if you have any opinions on any of these topics. Let us know what you would do in the apocalypse,
Hmm.
and if you've ever sat in your bed before going to sleep and been like, "Dang, dude, that would be so sick."
Yeah. And let us know what topics you guys are interested in and want to hear from
Hmm.
us. As you can see, we're just talking in real time, going through our own thoughts and trying to sort things out. And again, if you're a listener and you want to be on the podcast and you have an
Pull
interesting
up.
story, we'd love to have you on. Send us an email or a DM or comment, and we'll get something going. But thanks, Launch Party Nation.
Let's go, LPP Nation.
Yeah, it's been real. All right.